Welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning in. And today I have a little something different for us. So most of the videos, and I kind of mentioned this in some previous videos, that I'm going to be giving you the three-dimensional object first. And then from the three-dimensional object, we are supposed to create 2D drawings, right? And we could give this to a fabricator, but this is typically not how it's done, right? So this part is simple enough to where I can hand it to someone and say, hey, can you go ahead and build this for us? But this is really not proper standards. So what we're going to discuss in this video is how to break this down, how to look at it, and then we're going to actually draw this in AutoCAD, where we will do the regular 2D stuff. I'm trying to decide it. I think we will go ahead and do the isometric. It's not really that complex. And then we'll go ahead and put the dimensions on this. So in this video, we're going to cover all three of them, right? So stand by and let's get started and we'll break it down. Okay. So anytime you have a drawing, right, the first thing you want to do is figure out how am I going to orient this to go to create it. The goal is always to make the least amount of views that you're going to need. Now, unfortunately for us in this one, we can't get away with that, right? We can't get away with creating 2 or 3 of them. So the first thing is we're going to define what an isometric is, right? So an isometric, if I'm looking this way, and this is going to be my front view. So always remember that anytime I'm looking at a drawing, when I first come across it, or the isometric in this case, this is the front view, right? Should be really simple and self-explanatory. If I'm looking at it this way, this is going to be my right side view. And once again, I am kind of sorry for drawing on this with my little mouse here. And then if we're looking going downward here, this is going to be our top view, right? So these are the 3 views that we're going to use to define what an isometric is, right? So before we know anything, if you're going to create an isometric, the 3 views that it's going to create, and these are also known as the 3 primary views, right? So anytime that you see an isometric, you have a front view, a right side view, a top view, which is also referred to as your 3 primary views. Okay. The reason why we can't get away with creating this one and maybe 2 views is because I can show you the top view, which I have to show these 2 circles. One of the rules of dimensioning is that I cannot dimension to a hidden line, right? I can't dimension to these hidden circle surfaces, and we'll see that more when I get into actually creating this. What I mean by that is that if I'm looking at the front view here, I cannot show this hole here, right? It's going to be shown as a hidden surface. So you don't want to do that. I have to create the views and I have to put dimensions on them. Now there are some emergency situations and things that we can do. And I will show you that in the video on if we absolutely have to kind of delete a view, what we can do as an alternative. So there are ways that we do have in drafting to kind of eliminate a view if we really want to go that way. But ideally, if we have enough space on the paper, go ahead and create all 3 of your views that you need to use and do that, right? So some of the other things that we can look at on here, this is a, super simple. We're going to start off with this kind of L shaped here. And what I plan on also doing in a future video is I might actually go back and create this one for you and let you follow along. So if you want to see that, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. But we can see that all of the dimensions are here. We see this 25 here. Don't let this confuse you because it says 2 places. So this 25 diameter here also goes for this circle here. So it's telling me what this surface is happening here. So that's another thing that we want to take a look at. Let's make sure all of our dimensions. So this is just strictly an L shape. So we have 75 here and then we have 75 here. The centers of these are going to be located at 50 and 50. Okay. And then we can also see that they're centered right across this 50 here. So this thing is 50 wide, no matter which direction we're looking at. And it's going to be 25 across both of them. All right. Now, there's a reason why I did not put the radius on this one. Because we should be able to figure out what the radius is, right? So if we have the center located here, going all the way up to 50, and the overall length here is 25, that distance from here, it's 75. That distance from here to here is 25. And we also see the distance from here to here is 25. So that gives me some confluence that it tells me that the radius of this should be 25, right? So there's no need for me to go ahead and actually put this dimension on here, specifying that this is going to be an R25 dimension when we do or can actually calculate it, right? So that's good for us. We don't have to worry about figuring that out. And this is one of those other rules of anytime you're doing some kind of drafting stuff, is that you don't really want to waste a lot of time putting double dimensions on and dual dimensions and things of that nature. As you can see, by leaving that dimension off, it keeps the drawing a lot more cleaner, right? So we don't have to go ahead and specify that stuff. The people that are fabricating these things are smart enough to be able to figure that out. They've been used to looking at blueprint drawings, you know, for most of their careers, so they can look at this and go, oh yeah, that's simple enough to build. I know what that is. So when they do their layout, that's going to be something that they can figure out without any problem, or call the drafter or designer and say, hey, what did you mean by this? You know, so they're able to figure that out. All right, so I think that's probably a good enough for us to break this down. I think everything on this one is really self-explanatory. We have our thicknesses and things of that nature. All right, so next, let's go ahead and jump over to AutoCAD and start laying this one out and getting started. Okay, so here's what the actual AutoCAD drawing looks like that I created for this one. And like I said, in a later video, we will come back and discuss how to create these if you're interested in that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start off by creating a new drawing here. So I'm just going to click on this plus icon here. And that's going to get me over to a new drawing. And like we normally do, we go ahead and turn the grid off since there's no need for that. And I did show you in another video where I actually used the grid and the snaps. But in this one, I actually could get away with doing that same thing again and just set everything equal to 5s, but it's a lot simpler on this one just to go ahead and draw it out. Let's go ahead and turn our ortho on. It's another normal thing we do. And then from here, I'll let you go ahead and take a look at the running O snaps that I am going to have on for this video. Okay, let's start off with the line command. And all I'm going to do is select here, and I want to go down a distance of 75, right? So I'm going to type in 75. It typically will run off your paper. So I'm just going to go over here and hit the zoom extents. And let's see if it's going to let me zoom extents it. Nope, I'll hit the escape button and then I'll go and hit the zoom extents. Okay, there we go. Now I'm able to zoom out. Let's go back to the line command. And then we can go across this direction, 75. We're going to go up a distance of 10. This is where I have to do a little bit of math in my head here. I know that the distance going across here was 75. I'm going up a distance of 10. But how far is it back from this line going this direction? Well, if you refer back to the drawing, it's going to be 20, right? So that 20 minus my 75 should be enough for me to do it in my head, right? So that's going to be 55. And then we're going to go up. Remember that we took off 10 away from this, right? Now, we also have a step into this one. So I can either choose to add that step in now, or I can come back and add it in later. I think I'll go ahead and add it in now since the math is super simple for us. So the height going up from this bottom line here, going up to that center, is going to be 50. Remember that I have a 10 sitting over here to the side, so that height will be 40. And then I'm going to come back here to the left, a distance of 10. And then we're going to go up here to the top. Now, I don't have to figure out that calculation. All I have to do is touch that endpoint and then drag my mouse over, right? This is called O-snap tracking. So now it figured out the math for me and said, hey, you want to go up a distance of 25? Yep, that's absolutely correct. So once it's locked in it there, you can just give it a left click. And then I can go to this endpoint and then hit escape. Now, I could not use the close function. Remember that when I created this first line, I actually broke it. I hit the escape button and then I went back around and I did all of the rest of the stuff. Okay, so now this is drawing. This is the top view. I'm going to go ahead and start putting in some of my surfaces that I do know where they are. Let's go ahead and use the offset command for that. So I'll go to offset and I'm going to start off by creating this one here at the bottom. So I'm going to offset, I'm going to put in that distance of 50 since we determined that that's where the center of this is located at. And I'm just going to go here and place it here. Now here at the top, it's a little bit different. This is actually the center of my circle here. It's located right at this edge here. But I do know the radius of this circle, right? So the radius of those circles on the inside, remember that the diameter is 25. Therefore, the radius of them will be 12.5. So let's use the offset command. Type in our distance here, which is 12.5. And then we're going to offset this line. One going that direction, one going this direction. And then on this line here, we need to show it. So one going this direction, and then one going this direction. Okay, let's escape out of here. Now we're going to go ahead and delete this line here. There's really no need for it yet. We're going to come back later and put the centers on them. Now we're going to use the trim command. Here's one of those super neat features about the trim command, right? So with trim, I can go ahead and just trim these off here. Now remember, I want to extend this line. Do not escape out of this command. Simply hold the shift button down, click on that line there, and then I'm going to keep the shift button held down. I'll go ahead and click here, let go of the shift button, and then you should be able to trim this out. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the escape button. Now that was real neat and super simple, and that's one of those hidden little tricks about AutoCAD that'll speed up your keystrokes. Just remember that if you're in the trim command, you're also in the extend command, and vice versa. Okay, let's go ahead and create a layer just so we can get these lines already defined for us. So I'm just going to come up here to layers, and I'm going to create 2 of them. I'll come up here to the top. Let's create the hidden layer. And then we're going to go ahead and put our center layer in, since we're going to need that one here eventually. Let's go ahead and change the color to our hidden layer. Let's make it color number 1. So it's going to be red. I'll give it a second for it to switch over. And then my center layer, let's go ahead and make that color number 4, which is cyan. And I'll go ahead and select it here. So if you're not used to typing in the number here at the bottom, you can simply select it here, and you can see where it says color index. That's the color that I'm referring to. So when I say color number 4, it's going to automatically go to cyan. All right, the next 2 things I need to do, let's go ahead and change these line types. So underneath my hidden one, make sure you have the right one selected. Select the continuous on that. Hit the load, scroll down till you find hidden 2. Go ahead and hit OK, and then select hidden 2, and then hit OK. And we will do the exact same thing with the center layer. So I will select it there. I'll go to load, scroll down till I find center 2, go ahead and hit OK. Select hidden, and then hit OK. Alright, so these are going to be the only 2 that I'm going to need right now. Now I will come back and create others if I need them. Well, let me create one more because I'm going to kind of give you a little preview of something. You'll notice that I had the center one selected, so it copied all of that information. But I want to go ahead and make a hatch layer, because this is going to be one of those options that if you want to get rid of a view, this is how you would do it. So I'm going to create a hatch one. Let's go ahead and make the line type on this one continuous, which is a solid line. And then let's go ahead and make this color something that'll pop. Let's make it a yellow, or color number 2. Okay, so now that I have all of my layers go ahead and set up, let's go ahead and close this. And now we can go ahead and put these on the hidden layer, right? So I'm just going to select these 2 lines here, as well as these 2. I'll go up to the layer drop down here, and then I'll select hidden. Okay. I'm not worried about them actually showing the hidden lines yet. Remember, we have to define that when we figure out the scale factor. But as of right now, this is perfectly fine for us, right? So we have this view and we have this view. Let's go ahead and create the right side view of this one. So remember that anytime you're creating views, these have to be in line with each other. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to use this construction line method here. Make the lines horizontal. I'm going to click on all of these endpoints, right? So give it a second here. I don't know why my computer is actually running a little bit slow, but here we go. So I'm just going to select these endpoints. And we have one more here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do next is just draw a vertical line. So I'm just going to use the line command. So L enter, get a little distance away from here and go straight up. So escape out of this. Now we're working on this view. We know how wide this view is. It's going to be an overall distance of 50. So I just use offset, set that distance to 50, select this line here, and then place it to the right of it. Okay, now I want to trim off all of these lines around it, right? The easiest way to do that is going to be with the EX trim command. So just type that one in. There is no icon for it. Go ahead and hit enter. Select one of your vertical lines. So I'll start off with this one on the right. I'll select this one and then click anywhere to the right of it. I'm just going to hit the enter button to take me back to the last command I used. Select this line here and then select to the left of it. Once again, I'll just hit enter to take me back to the EX trim command. select this top line, click above it, and once more by hitting enter and then selecting this bottom line and then click below it. Okay, so this guarantees that now my shape is sitting right in the middle of this, right? Okay, I want to go ahead and put my hidden lines here in the middle, right? But I'm going to reference this over here, so I don't have to basically recreate this. So I'm going to use the copy command, and now I need to get to the middle of this one to place these two lines over to here. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hold down the shift button and do a right click. I'll come up and select mid between 2 points. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still in the selecting objects. I'm so sorry. Let me hit the escape button. Let's do that one more time. Let's go to copy. I have to, sometimes I don't get down and read the command line here. I kind of 2 steps ahead of myself. I need to select both of these lines. Go ahead and hit enter. Now when it's asking me for a base point, that's where I'll do the shift and right click. Go to mid between 2 points. Then you need to select the 2 points, right? So I'm going to select that endpoint here and this endpoint. Now I'm in the middle of them. And then I'm just going to select this midpoint here. Go ahead and hit the escape button. And now I basically brought those 2 lines over here. All right, the next thing I need to do is go ahead and create my circle here. And then I do have a big fillet here at the top. Let's go ahead and create the circle first. So I'll use a circle, center diameter. I'll click here at this midpoint and kind of give myself a little preview by extending that. And then the diameter, is it asking me? Yes, it's 25. Okay, so here at the top I have a couple of different options that we can use to create this one, right? We could start off by creating a circle, or we can use some fillets, or we can use an arc. I'll show you all 3 of them and I'll let you determine which one is best for you. So if I want to use a circle with the radius, and I'm going to use a couple of these, so a circle with the radius, I'll go ahead and select the midpoint here, and then simply click on that endpoint that's out here, and that circle is created. If you didn't know that one, here's another option for you. You can always use a 2-point circle, and then just select these 2 endpoints. So I can select that endpoint here, go right across, and go to this endpoint. Exactly the same method, you can get those circles. And then the last option here, if we really have to, we can choose to use an arc. Now remember, with those other 2 methods, you will have to do some trimming. But we know we can use the start in, and we already figured out what the radius is, right? And just in case you didn't know, the radius is 25, or like we discussed in the beginning. So start in radius. Remember, with this one, we always have to be creating this circle counterclockwise, right? We have to figure out which one is our start point and which one is our end point. Now I'm moving my cursor around in a counterclockwise motion, right? So remember that if I want to start this arc, and if I started here at the bottom going counterclockwise, it's going to follow my cursor around in that direction. So if I click this endpoint first, that's going to put my arc here at the bottom. Remember that I'll always be thinking counterclockwise. So I will start on this endpoint, and I'm kind of thinking counterclockwise. I will end on this endpoint. Then what I like to do is try to give myself a preview of it showing up. Now I'll type in what the radius is, and we determine that that is 25. Go ahead and select that, and then you will see that you are able to get that radius. One of your last options here, if you just didn't want to do either one of those and you said, hey, I got a nice fancy fillet command, go ahead and use the fillet command. So if I go to fillet, I can go specify what the radius is. Remember, that is 25. Go ahead and hit enter. And now I can select multiple since I have more than one. I can go ahead and put a fillet here. And then I can put a fillet between here and here. Either one of those methods will work. Now, I know I kind of gave you a run of the mill there, but any one of those methods will work to get this radius going across. The only downfall of this one is that it is 2 different objects here. You can see that this one here and then this one here. And I've never done this before, but let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can join those. So if I have them both selected and I hit join, let's see what happened. It says, hey, do I want to convert that to a circle? Let's go ahead and hit yes on that. Oh, I should have hit no. Let's go ahead and come back. So I just undid that. Let's see. This is always kind of neat with me exploring certain things, and I do encourage other people to explore. Sometimes in AutoCAD you might find something that's kind of useful, and it's one of those things I've never done before. So I'm just going to go ahead and join them again, And then when it asks me to convert this to a circle, oh, looks like it did it differently this time. Don't think I like that. All right. But anyway, let's go ahead and leave it how it is for right now. I'll kind of play with that a little bit later. We need to go ahead and figure out a trim here. So I'm just going to trim right between these 2 points. Okay. So this is enough to actually create my drawing off of if you want to stop at these 2 views. But remember that I can't dimension to these lines here or these lines. The key that you're going to use is called a breakout view, right? And all a breakout view is say, hey, go ahead and take a bite out of this or take a trim off of it. And the way that I would do a breakout view, and we're not going to leave this one for this drawing here, but we're going to go to drawing. We're going to drop down underneath the drawing. We're going to use a spline fit. I'm going to zoom into this a little bit. And then I'm just going to go ahead and turn my ortho off. These two don't like to exist together. And then I'm just going to kind of make a sketch of what's happening here, right? All right, and once I get down to the bottom here, remember you have to hit the enter button. Do not hit the escape button, otherwise you will lose your spline. Go ahead and trim off these 2 portions here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these 2 lines, right? Remember we have 2 different options of breaking. I can use a regular break or I can break at a single point. Now, I can use both of them to break at a single point. This one just has them all combined into one. So I'll show you both of them. If I use the break command at a point, all I have to do is select the object, and then it says select a point. And so I'm going to select right at this intersection here, and then this line is actually broken into 2 points. If you didn't know that, or if you're a person that's used to using the keyboard and you don't want to go up there and find that, I can use the break command. So I'm just going to type it in, break. I'm going to select the object. And now it's asking me to, hey, go ahead and specify the second point. So right now it's trying to break at that point. But I said, no, I don't want it to do that. I'm just going to go first point. I'm going to select that intersection. And now it's asking for the second point, right? So if I'm not mistaken, I should hit the @ symbol. So type in the @ symbol and then hit enter. And what happens here is that now I have essentially broken it at 1 point. So exact same command. If you go back and let's go ahead and pull up the list here. If I go back to the other command here and it says break at a point, let's see, it used to have it listed up in here what it did. I don't see it anymore. It used to actually show you the @ symbol that it did type. But okay, looks like they improved that command. Anyway, so now these 2 lines here, let me go ahead and select them, are actually visible. Let's go ahead and make them visible by putting them on the 0 layer. And then one other thing I have to do, and this is why I created that hatch command or layer, is I have to come here and I have to place a hatch on this, right? So I have to tell it that I actually cut this open. Let me go ahead and place another hatch here. And what I like to do is usually increase this to whatever the scale factor is, but I don't know the scale factor right now. Let's go ahead and select those 2. Go ahead and close this. And now I'm able to dimension to this. Let me do one other step here. Select this and let's go ahead and put it on the appropriate layer. Go to home, go here, and then tell it to be on the hatch layer. Okay. All right. So if I really only wanted to create 2 views, this is the option that I would have to create here in order to dimension to this. Remember that one of those rules is that I can't dimension to these red lines here because they're hidden. But this line I can because, you know, it's a continuous line, and now that I've just taken basically a chunk out of it to show you that, you can do that. Now I'm going to leave that on there just for dimensioning purposes. Now I'll go ahead and create the other part of this, right? Let's go ahead and create the top view. So exactly like what we did before, is we first started off with construction line. We made them vertical. So we're going to create the one on top of it. I'm just going to go to these endpoints. Okay, hit the escape button. And now we should be able to create this a little bit faster. I'm just going to use the line command. I'm going to come across here. Looks like it didn't select my line command. Oh, put the ortho back on. Let's go straight across here. Put our offset in at 50. So we put in our distance at 50. We're going to select this line here. We'll go to the top. Then we're going to start off doing our trimming, right? And I want to make sure that I put that at an offset. Okay, it is correct. Let's go ahead and do our trim. And we could do our EX trim like we did before. That would make things a lot faster. Let's go ahead and use that one, EX trim. Let's go ahead and select this top line here. Click above it. Hit the enter button. Select this bottom line here and then click below it. All right, hit enter again. I'm going to click this one, go to the right, enter again, click this one, and then go to the left. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and draw a line going right through the middle here. Remember, we have to offset this. So let's go to the offset command, put in a distance of 12.5. I'm going to place our offset here and here. Okay. And now we have to break these two lines, right? Because these two at the top here will be hidden lines and these two will be visible. So we can use that command that we used before, the break at a point. If you want to use that again, and sure. And then we'd use also a trim since I'm here. Let me go ahead and trim off this portion right here because that's actually not seen. And then we can break these two lines, right, by using the break at a single point. So if I go to modify, break at a point, select this line here, and then select that end point. Now, if I hit the enter command to repeat that command, you will notice that it will go back to the break at a point. This used to be something that didn't happen in some of the previous ones, but here in the 2025 one, they did fix that. So I can select this line here, and then select that midpoint, and now these two are broken. Another neat trick we can use here is we can go ahead and use the match properties. Select the red line here, and then we're going to select these two red lines. All right, so now we have that. Let's go ahead and put our circle here at the bottom. So we use a circle, center, radius, or diameter. Now, if I want to, I can use some tracking here, and I don't think we used enough tracking. So what I want you to do is touch that midpoint, and then I'm just going to move my cursor outside of it, and then I'm going to come here to the front to where it's in line. So once I have that set, I can just type in what the distance is from that edge, which is 50, and then I'll type in what the diameter is, which is 25. Let's use that same thing we did before here, and now I'm going to see if it actually works a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and use the fillet command, radius. I always check my radius when I'm using this command here. It's 25. I'll go ahead and select both of these lines. I forgot to use the multiple option here, so I'll just hit enter and then select that line. Remember that I want to select both of these two lines. I want to go to the join command. And it looks like it just joined them really quickly. Okay. All right. So that's all you're going to need to create the three views. Now, keep in mind that if I didn't have this breakout here, I am required to create this view here. If you don't have this breakout here, yes. But if I put the breakout here, then I need this other, I don't need this view. I kind of said it backwards here. So if I have the breakout on this one, I really don't need this top view, right? I can see everything I need to see from this view and this view. If we get rid of the breakout, then I am required to have this view because I have no way of dimensioning this circle here at the bottom. You'll notice that I can see that one from the top, okay? So this took us about, a good 30 minutes to draw that part. The isometric shouldn't be that long, and then we'll jump over to dimensioning, right? So this is the important part, is I wanted to explain how to go through and do this part. The rest of this, I'm going to kind of go through fast and not give you super instructions, as I don't want to make this video super duper long or over an hour. But I'm going to kind of, speed up a little bit on the isometric. If you're not interested in the isometric, just go ahead and skip to the dimensioning portion. Okay, so we're going to create the isometric next. And the way that I'm going to do this is that I'm going to start off by creating this left side view, which is going to be the front view. And what I'm going to draw is this L shape that I'm having highlighted for you right now. So this is what we're going to create first. And we should be able to figure out the math on this, right? This back half here is going to be 50. Here at the bottom is 50. We know that this height going up is 10. So when I come back this direction, remember that this overall length is 50. We have to subtract this 20. So this distance here will be 30. And then we're going to go up a distance of whatever this 50 is. Remember, minus this 10. So we're going to go up a distance of 40. And then we should be able to close this in one shot. And I'm going to create this part first, because these circles have to be created with iso circles. And then I'm also going to create, basically, and let me kind of finish highlighting it all for you, is I'm going to start off by creating this shape here. And hopefully, this is I'm kind of redrawing it all the way through here so you can kind of see exactly what I plan on creating. And it looks something like that. But this is good enough for what we need to see here. All right, perfect. Okay, so that's going to be the shape that I'm going to start off with creating. And then we'll build our radiuses and arcs from that part. All right, so real simple. The math on this one is super easy. Let's go ahead and start working on this isometric and knocking this part out. Okay, so remember that if you don't want to really see this part, you can skip through it. And I don't know why this is open. Let me go ahead and close that. It's my properties window over there. There we go. Okay. Should go away here in a second. Otherwise, I'll just close it all together. Okay. It's acting up. All right. Let's go ahead and create this isometric. First thing we need to do is go ahead and put our isometric on. Let's make sure our ortho is on. I'm going to switch to isometric left. And then I'll create that first shape that I told you I was going to create. So I'm going to go with a line. Click here, go down 50. Let's go here to the right 50. Let's go up 10. Back going this direction. Remember, we have to subtract that 20 from that 50. This is 30. And then we're going to go up a distance of that 50 minus our 10, which is going to be 40. And then here, I can go see and close it. All right. Next, let's go ahead and switch to isometric top. I will select these 4 lines here. Use the copy command. Click here. Let's go right across to the side here, a distance of 50. Let's go ahead and hit the escape button. Let's draw a line going right across. And like I said before, I am going to go a little bit fast on this. I just don't want to make this video, too long. And you could also feel free to skip through most of this if you don't want to see the isometric. Let's go ahead and copy this from this endpoint, and I'm just going to place them at these endpoints here. Okay. So we basically created that shape really quickly here. And then let's go ahead and create our ellipses, iso circles. Remember, we have to type it in. So EL, enter, then I enter. I'm going to select this midpoint, and then I'm going to go over to that endpoint, right? Let's go ahead and trim this. So I'll use trim. I'm going to select the cutting edge, which is going to be this line here. Enter. And then I'm just going to take away this back half. Escape out of here. Go to the copy command. Well, no, let's go ahead and put our other ellipse iso circle on the inside of this one before we do that. So EL, enter, I enter. Let's go ahead and select that midpoint. Select the word diameter here at the bottom. And the diameter is 25. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and erase these 2 lines here since there's no need for them. I'm going to go to copy. I will select my iso circle here in that arc. Enter. I'll go from this endpoint to this endpoint, right? All right, let's go ahead and get rid of this. Better yet, let's go ahead and move that. So select that line there. Go to move. Use this top endpoint. And then place it at this quadrant here. All right, so now all I have to do is, excuse me, trim the rest of this. So I'll go to trim. Start here with the bottom portion here. And I'm just going to trim off these parts here. Then along this side, I'll go ahead and trim off right here and to here. Okay, so the bottom part is gone, done and created. Let's go ahead and switch to isometric right. So I'm just going to select the fly up here, go to isometric right, EL enter, I enter. I'll select this back midpoint, and then I'm going to come right over to that endpoint, just like we did before, trim, select the cutting edge, which is going to be this line here, enter, then go ahead and trim off that portion there. Escape. Let's go back to the ellipse, so EL enter, I enter, go to that midpoint. I'm just going to type in D for diameter, so unlike selecting it last time, I can just type in D, 25. Okay, now we have this created. Let's go ahead and delete that line there. We won't be able to see it here in a second. Let's go to use copy. And now I can't use the isometric one to pull this when the isometric that I'm currently in, I'm in isometric right. So I'm just going to switch to any other one besides isometric right. Let's use isometric left. Let's go ahead and select those two. So we're still in the copy. I selected the objects, hit enter. I'll click a base point here, and I'm just going to drag this forward, right? Then I'm going to type in 10, enter, and then I'll type in 20, enter. Okay, let's go and hit the escape button. All right, so we have a lot of stuff happening here. What I want to first do is I want to select this line here. I'm going to copy this line from this endpoint going to that endpoint. All right, let's escape out of here. This line here we don't need, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it now. And then this line here, we can decide, do we want to show this one or do we want it to go all the way through? I'm going to leave that fold there, but I'm going to trim it on this side. So I'll go to trim, and I'm just going to take away this portion here. Now I'm going to work with kind of cleaning this up. That's going to really accelerate some things. I'm going to go to copy, select this line, hit enter, go to this endpoint. The first thing I'm going to do is find the quadrant that's located here. And then I'm going to go and find these two intersections between this line. So I have an intersection there, and then I have an intersection here. Okay, let's escape out of this. And then we can start kind of trimming this up to hopefully finish this out in one shot here. There's going to be a little bit more stuff we might have to do, but let's go to trim. And let's first start off with this front circle. So remember that this is just going to be a part. So I'm just going to trim this around like so. All right. And then I'm going to get rid of this line that's running through here, as I'm going to trim this off like that as well. Right. So the next one is I'm going to get rid of this bottom part of this next ellipse. So I'm just going to trim it from the bottom here and work my way around till I get to that line. Okay, now that I have that there, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this line going right through the middle here. Don't need to see that. And then I only have this bottom portion showing here, so I'm just going to trim right around this part here. Okay, next let's go up to here, and then we're going to put the finishing touches on it, right? So we'll trim off right between here. Hit escape. And now you see we are actually done with the isometric. That didn't take us too long to do. All right, now we're ready to jump over to the dimensioning part, right? So let's go ahead and figure out how we want to dimension this. All right, so now I'm going to try to explain what dimensions you need to show basically on each view. So on my front view here, I'm going to highlight these in yellow. So the dimensions that I want to use is going to be right off of this drawing here, or right off the isometric view, is I want to at least show these, right? So these will basically cover my front view. On the right side view here, I'm going to kind of color these a different color. I don't know if you could see it. Okay, there we go. I have to put at least these views on there, right? Because these one are the ones that's going to show on that view. I can also label this one, and this is going to be an optional one, right? I can either put this one on this view, or I can put it on the top view, either one. And then at a minimum, on my top view, I have to put these colors, or sorry, these dimensions. Okay, so this is one way I can cover all of my dimensions, right? Just by looking at this and making sure that my drawing is indeed gonna have all of my dimensions. And once again, on this dimension, I can have this one also placed on that top view. All right, so these are going to be my minimum targets or my minimum dimensions that I need. If I see that I can add something else, I will add something else. Also keep in mind that I did leave that hatch there. So this dimension here can also be placed on that other one just to show you that dimension, right? Or I guess if I really wanted to be, if I didn't want to have that hatch there, let me go ahead and bring my pen back. I could actually just cover that with a leader and then have this information placed on that. So when I get to the drawing portion, I will show you both of those methods that you can use. I can either place it on that right side view, and then I guess I didn't really have to put the breakout in there now that I think about it, but I'm just giving you many different options of how you can go ahead and create your drawing, right? Let's jump back over to AutoCAD, and then we should be able to finish this up with a title block and then do all the dimensions. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom back out here, and then let's start setting up all of our dimensions that we might need, right? So let's go to the layers, and then we're going to create a dimension layer. So DIM is what I typically like to call this layer here. I'll go ahead and select the color of it. Let's see, let's make the color blue. And we might need a title block layer. Sure, why not? Let's call a title block. So I'll create a new one here. Let's see, did it create it? Oh, it's down here at the bottom. And I'm going to name this one TB. And let's go ahead and make this color magenta, which is going to be located here. Okay, and I'm just going to verify that the TB layer is on continuous. All right, so I think that should be about all I need. Let's go ahead and close this. And then we're going to go ahead and switch out of this isometric drafting. And then let's go ahead and start creating a title block, right? The way I like to usually do this, and remember that this is kind of a rough guess of what a title block is. If you want to make an official title block, or if anyone needs help with a title block, go ahead and leave me a comment or send me a message, and I can actually help you with a title block. You'll notice that these don't have attributes and things of that nature to it, but it's just a simple title block just to represent the paper size. So let's use a rectangle, 0, 0, enter. 17, 11, enter, right? So this is going to be our B size. Let's zoom into here. Let's use the offset command. Distance is 0.25. Go ahead and hit enter on that. Select this rectangle and then click to the inside. Just going to zoom in here a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the correct layer, which is going to be the title block layer. And then I'm going to select both of these two, and then I'll hit the create button, right? And I just want to make this a block, give it a name of TB. We don't have to worry about picking the point. We already have it at 0, 0. We're going to make this a block, and we're going to be using inches in this case. So just go ahead and hit the OK button. Now the title block is already created. The reason why we do this is just so it makes determining what the scale factor is a lot simpler, right? So when I select here, and then I'm going to open the properties window, do a right click and go to properties. This property window should appear. Underneath the scale X, scale Y, and scale Z, remember that I have mine on scale uniformly. That's why these other two are grayed out. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this number. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit more just so we can see everything we need to fit in here. And sometimes this is a little trial and error, but I can go ahead and just type in 12, and I kind of take a look at that and go like, all right, that's not good enough for what I need, right? You can see that this is going to take a little bit more. Let's try 20. 20 is close enough to what I need, and I think I should be able to get away with 20 here, right? I can use a 24, and all of these numbers I'm using are coming from these here. Now, in other videos, and I think I need to create another one again, I can show you how I can determine what the scale factor is or what these numbers are. So if you want to figure out what those are, I'll make a short video for that one. That shouldn't take us too long to explain on how to come up with whatever these scale factors are. It's just simple math and things of that nature. And I know I had it in a lecture somewhere, but I'll go ahead and refresh your memory if you're not too familiar with figuring out these. You know, metric is really straightforward. Like these are 1 to 1, 2, 8, 16, 20, things of that nature. When we get down to these architectural and mechanical scales, They're not that self-explanatory, right? I just know out of practice that if I take a look at this one has a scale factor of 24, and this one is 16 and 12, right? And I just know these off the top of my head because I'm so used to working with them. But I will show you that there is some math behind this and some logic behind what actually happens when you're putting a scale factor together. Now, I scaled this up to a 20. So depending on what scale factor you're using, that's what you're going to put in your drawing, right? So this has got a scale factor of 20. So therefore, if I had something to label in my title block, I can label this as 1 to 20. If I made this 24, you'll see that there is no 24 in here. I will come down and then I will put it as this one here. But this is where that magic lies at. You don't want to mix these two. So you're either using imperial units or you're using metric units. Don't really mix them up. So if I was using this and I was strictly using inches, and this was an inches drawing, and this is an example, but if I was using an inches drawing, there would be no way I would set this equal to 20. And if I did set it equal to 20, then remember that my scale factor that I'm going to put inside of my drawing will be not to scale, right? Because I am not mixing my metric with my imperial units. Now, if it is 24, then by all means, go ahead and put your 1/2 equals a foot. So that's another one of those rules. You do not want to really mix these two, one or the other. That's why you see them repetitive. That's why you could see that a 16 here, we have one that's down here that's a 16. So you just got to know how to figure them out. They're really straightforward. And like I said, I will make another video here recently or soon that will explain scale factors, especially for all of those who are kind of new to drafting and they want to determine how do you come up with figuring out scale factors. Super simple, a little bit of math, but simple math. All right, enough of me kind of explaining and beating you over the head with that. But for this example, you can see that I did set it equal to 20, right? I don't have any kind of standards that I'm following by. I'm just really showing you the concept of what you need to do. All right, so once I do that, let me go ahead and set this equal to 20. And I usually like to use the annotation scale here. If you don't want to use that one, and remember that there are 3 different methods that I cover on how you should create your drawing. If you're kind of figuring this out, which method that you're going to use, I use the standard method, use annotation, or I like to use the paper space method, right? Try to choose between one of those. Although you can mix them, I like to keep it simple. So if I'm going to use a standard method, I use standard method for my whole entire drawing. Annotation scale, super simple, and paper space is super simple. But if you're going to use standard, stick with standard on everything. So in this one, I think I will go ahead and show you standard just so you don't get used to seeing the annotation scale, right? So when I'm using standard, number 1 rule, keep this on 1 to 1, right? So if I keep this on 1 to 1, what I'm going to first adjust, and remember that we're using the standard method, is LTS. That stands for line type scale. If I hit enter on that, I'm going to set this equal to whatever I scale my title block up to. In this case, it's going to be 20. Once I hit enter on this one, you can see that those hidden lines now will become visible, right? So that's one way of doing this. I'm using the standard method, and you're going to hear me kind of repeat this over and over in this video. All right, let's go ahead and adjust these and get them in the location of where I want them at. So I'm going to move all of these. Remember that I'm going to move them as a unit. I want all of these to move together. So once I'm done selecting, go ahead and hit enter. Give it a base point. I like to click somewhere away from it, but before I do that, let's go ahead and turn off our ortho. I'm going to click here. And that's going to give me the freedom to kind of move this where I want it. That looks good to me. Let's zoom into this isometric. Now you can see that this isometric is kind of close to this. Here's another one of those selection options I'm going to go ahead and give you. Let me go ahead and close this real quick. I don't think I need to have this open. Okay. So I want to move this, right? And you can see that if I tried to move this with the conventional stuff that I use, right? Just by putting a window around this, it's going to run into my other view here. So I'm going to use the move command. And what I usually like to do here is type in CP. That just stands for crossing polygon. Go ahead and hit enter. Make sure that your ortho is turned off. And what now I can do is I can kind of create a rectangle around this. Another thing that you can do and these are for my users that are drafters or users that like to use the lasso effect, is that if I go to the move command, and then once I'm in the move command, if I left click and hold that button down, you'll notice that it will give me that lasso effect, right? So long as you hold that left button down, you can come up here and create that lasso effect as well. Either one of those methods work for me. Either way. But as long as you select this, go ahead and hit enter. Pick my base point somewhere over here, and then I drag over here. The old method before the lasso was in, we had to use the crossing polygon, which is what the CP stands for. Okay. So now this is in location where I want it. Next thing what I like to do is go ahead and start putting in my center marks, right? So with that being said, I have to determine what my extension is going to be off of that. So you can, by default, I think the extension is like 0.18, which is super duper small. Remember that these lines going across is at 50, so 0.18 I won't be able to see, so I'm going to adjust that number to either 3 or 5 is what I typically like to use. So I'm going to type in center EXE command, go ahead and hit enter, and then I'll type in 3, enter, right? Nothing really changes or happens, but you will see that here in a second. And then the next thing I like to go ahead and put on here is go ahead and make my center layer. Go ahead and hit enter, and then I'm going to put that on the sin layer, right? Because that's the layer that I want to use on these. Okay. Let's jump over to the annotation tab and then go ahead and put the center marks on. So I'll go to center marks. What I like to do is select this circle here. And you can see that that's created here. Let's go ahead and do it on here as well. All right. Now for this one, let's go ahead and use the center line command. I'm going to select this line here. And then this line. I might have to make my pick box a little bit bigger. All right. So I have that there. I'll just hit the enter command again. I do have one here, but you're going to see that when I select both of these, it's kind of messy, right? So what I recommend that you do kind of on this one, and it's kind of tough to tell you, but I'm just going to drag this endpoint to here. And then I'll go ahead and define this as a center line here in a second. All right. Let's go ahead and put one more center mark up here at the top. So I have a center line, and what I'll select is this line here, and then this line, just so it covers all the way across there. All right. Let's go ahead and adjust this one a little bit. So I'm going to select here, go to this endpoint here. Place it there, and one more here to here. Okay. All right. Now the next thing I like to do is on my center marks, I don't like to really have extra center lines going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and select this center line here. Let's go ahead and open that properties window again. Let's do a right click and go to properties. And then I like to increase this one, right? So increasing the line type scale, get rid of some of these extra ones. So let's see what 1.5 looks like. And that looks like it does the trick for me. Let's hit escape. And now you see I only have one center point in these lines going off. I'll use the match properties command, MA, enter, select this line here, and then go ahead and click this line here. Looks like I'm missing it. There we go. Okay. Oh, I also forgot a center mark here at the bottom, didn't I? Let's do a center line from here to here. Okay. Let me zoom into this one more step here. And I will apologize, this video is getting a little bit long, but we'll go ahead and finish this one today. All right. So now with my ones that are not showing any center lines or center marks, remember we need to make this one smaller. So I'm going to go here, and I always like to start off with 0.75 first. And if 0.75, let's zoom into this, doesn't show me anything, then I'll go to the next size, which is 0.5, and I'm breaking these down by quarters. Seems to work a lot easier for me if I do that, and you know, those are nice easy numbers to keep in my head. I'll use the match property, so I'm just going to use MA, enter. That just saves me from having to jump back over to the home tab here. Select my source. I'll select this one, kind of go around the horn here. Select this line here. And this one is okay. All right. So now we have all of our center marks in. We're ready to go ahead and set up our dimensioning style, right? So, easiest way to get there, D-enter. That jumps me up to the dimension. Remember, I'm using the standard method, right? So everything, try to keep it the same. I know my scale factor, and that's going to be important when you're using the standard method. If I use annotation, and you've seen me do this in plenty of videos, is that it's a lot simpler to deal with. But in this one, I have to specify what my scale factor is. So I'll go to modify. I always start with my primary units for some strange reason. It's just kind of how my brain works. I'm going to go ahead and suppress these trailing zeros. There's no need for them. Underneath the fit tab, this is important. If you're using the standard, go ahead and set this equal to whatever your scale factor is. It's going to be set to 20. Leave it set to 20. Let's go ahead and adjust our text height. Now the normal standard text height in most of your engineering fields, especially here in the United States, it's going to be 1/8 of an inch, right? So that's why I always put that at 1/8 of an inch. Let's go over to symbols and arrows. Here, I like to go ahead and turn my center marks off. There's no need since I went through the trouble of putting my center marks on. And then finally, I'll come over to the lines tab here. And then what I like to usually adjust this is this extension beyond. I'll make that whatever I make my text height to. It just kind of looks better in my opinion. Go ahead and hit the OK button and then close. All right, so now we're ready to put our dimensions on. But before I do that, is that I'm going to come where it says use current. I'm going to set this equal to the dimension layer. So now that when I create a dimension, it's going to automatically be on the correct layer. Let's start off with this one first. Let's go ahead and use a linear dimension. And then I'll put a dimension from here to here. I'll go ahead and place this one here. Now, unlike what I showed you in the beginning there, I can't put this dimension from here to here. I can't dimension to that center line because that center line is showing you where the hidden lines are. So therefore, I'm not going to put that on this view. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to my linear. And this is actually one continuous line, so I'll just go ahead and hit the enter button here. Just to bypass clicking those two endpoints, go ahead and select my line. And then I'll place it here. All right, I do have enough room to add a couple of more dimensions, but I think I'm going to leave them off for right now. Let's go ahead and go back to the linear dimension. I'm going to go from this endpoint to this center line here. Now I can do that on this one because it does define where the center mark is on this one. I'll also go ahead and put the thickness of this one. So I'll go back to the linear command and determine which side do I want that to be placed on. Do I want it on the top or on the bottom? In this case, I want it on the bottom. So therefore, I'm going to select this endpoint first, followed by that endpoint. And so if it was going to show up or throw it anywhere, it would have threw it to the bottom. Now I need to tell it that this circle here is located right in the middle of that. So I'll use a linear dimension from here, from that endpoint to there. And then if I want to, I can put the overall dimension going across here, but I'm going to save that for my, excuse me, my top view. All right, so let's go ahead and put a couple of dimensions here on the top view. Start off with a linear dimension from this endpoint to this one. Let's go ahead and place that dimension here. Go ahead and hit the enter command just to take me back to that one. Let's go from this endpoint to this one. It's going to be my 20. And then let's zoom in a little bit more. And I want to put another dimension here to the side. So I'm just going to add one more linear. Remember that if this dimension is going to get thrown out, I want it thrown out here to the left. So I'll select this endpoint first to that endpoint, and then I'll click it up. Now luckily it stayed in between there, but once again, I always like to do that just to take caution that if it is going to throw it, it's going to throw it out here to the left. Let's throw one more linear or a couple of more linear dimensions on here. So from here to here, and this is actually a kind of repeated 50 because we should be able to see that this length here is 50, and I didn't put it on here on the bottom, but if I'd have placed it here at the bottom. Let's do one more dimension. So we got a linear dimension from that endpoint here to here. All right, let's go ahead and throw in our radius dimensions and our diameter dimensions. So we're going to go to the radius ones first. I'm going to select this arc here. Go ahead and place it. Hit the enter command. Likewise on this circle, I'll go ahead and place that radius here. Then I'll place my 2 diameter dimensions. So I'll go back and use diameter. Let's go ahead and place that one here. Hit the enter button. And then let's place this one on this one. Okay. Now I do have all the information that I need to construct this, and this is, really a nice and simple drawing to do, but I'm going to show you what I would have done if I'd have left this like here. So remember that this is an optional step. You really wouldn't have this on here if I had the other view. But what we would do is we would start off by creating a linear dimension from this endpoint to here. I'll come down and place this dimension. Remember that now I have to edit this text, so hit escape and then double click on the 25. It should open up the text editing properties here. I'll go to the front of it. I'll type in %%C. Oh, I hit the D button, didn't I? %%C to give me a diameter. Go ahead and click off of it and hit escape. So that tells me the diameter of this one. And then if you wanted to put the center on this one, here's one of those optional things that we try to avoid unless it's absolutely necessary, right? But if I wanted to put a linear dimension from this endpoint to this endpoint, I'll go ahead and do this, right? And now this runs right into the middle of this one. This is one of those things that you want to try to avoid, but I'm going to go ahead and move this dimension to the outside. So we're going to select that center grip, and then we're going to place this one out here to the side. Now I have these two crossing each other. There is a command here in AutoCAD that will automatically clean this up for us. And that command is happening to be located here. So I can select break. And then I can select the dimension that I want to break. So I have to decide which one of these I want to break. In this case, let's go ahead and see if we can break this one here. And let's see what happens. And then I'll go ahead and hit the enter button. And now you can see that there is a break in between that. So that goes all the way up here. And then I have that on here. So that makes my drawing a lot cleaner, right? All right, now that should be everything that we need to construct on this one. All right, let's go ahead and zoom the extents. All right, so thank you for staying with me. Once again, I do apologize. This is a super long video, and I didn't intend for it to be this long, but it's packed with a lot of useful information. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Thank you for subscribing and coming back to this channel. And for the ones that are leaving me comments, a special thank to you. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing. And thank you for your time. And until the next video, and I do remember that I do owe you a video showing you what scale factors is, so look out for that one. Thank you for watching.